Hey everyone, it's Tom Del Beccaro, and welcome back to Politics in Perspective. Thanks for Ex-American News for carrying us on Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, AUN TV. Thanks so much for all of those, for covering us. WorldviewTube.com as well. Political Vanguard is our sponsor. Go there and get your media. Also, join me at Substack, TomDell.com. I have my latest piece from Town Hall up there, plus my latest piece from Fox News. So this week, as always, too much politics. You know, there's too much politics because there's too much government. Our founders never wanted government to be the center of our lives or the center of the economy. They wanted local government, local control, and very little federal government. But now that the federal government steps on everything we do and regulates it and worse taxes it, this is the world we live in. So you can't get away from it. You notice my background. I thought we'd go outside today for a change, but that's no excuse to not see the two books that are right there to my left on the screen, or maybe it's on the right. I can't tell. But that's the lessons of the American civilization and the divided era. If you want to read chapter 10 in the lessons of the American civilization, talks about how we wound up where we are. America, capitalism, and socialism. It didn't just walk into the neighborhood. This happened over a significant period of time in American history, and chapter 10 explains all the dynamics that led to the point where so many think they like socialism in America, even though it's capitalism that made America so abundant and created the largest middle class in history, and the innovations that occur in America, and then those innovations lift the standard of living of everyone in the world. We should probably do an entire show just on that. But for today, I wanted to start with my opening statement. Give me a chance here. My opening statement is going to be about the DSA. We'll get to that in a minute. Tony Katz will join us, the one and only Tony Katz, a dynamic speaker, radio host from Indiana. You'll love him. And in our political roundup, we're going to talk a little Middle East and perhaps some other things as well. But first, my opening statement on the 10 reasons the DSA isn't the fringe. It's the Democrats' heir apparent. So this week I returned to Town Hall after a 2-year hiatus to talk about these 10 reasons. The reason why I wrote this, y'all probably know this, the Democrats are in shock that the DSA has infiltrated their party. But no one should be shocked. The history of governments is they start out small, get really big. The history of the left is that they demand constant government programs. And then one day you wake up and you realize they've socialized education, socialized medical treatment, so many other things, cradle to grave. And so if you look at the platform of the Socialist Party from the 19 teens, that era, you see that most of what they wanted are now the law of the land. But today, the Democrats are trying to distance themselves from what some are calling the radical DSA. And yeah, they're radical. But here's 10 things they're not particularly radical about, but they do share with the Democrat Party. Or maybe they're both radical. Let's go to our first slide. The Green New Deal. Now, if you go to the DSA website, Democrat Socialists of America, what do you find? The most prominent thing is the Green New Deal. But you know what? That was actual policy of the Biden administration. That was establishment Democrat policy from 2021 through to January of 2025. So Is the DSA radical for wanting the same thing? Maybe they want a little bit more of it. But my point here is the Democrats can't be shocked about any of this. This is their policy. It was Trump that finally undid it. Number two, stick with their website, universal health care. They want the government to pay for all health care. Well, that's not particularly new to the Democrats. Think about it. In the 90s, we had Hillary Care. They were pushing Hillary Care, which was a forerunner to complete Medicare for all. And of course, the law of the land is Obamacare. In California, Gavin Newsom gives away health care to those here illegally. Lots of them. Lots of money. So, the universal health care. Is the DSA really radical? Or are they just the sons and daughters of the modern Democrat Party? Number three, the anti-war party. They're against what Israel doing anything, the United States doing anything, against war in Iran, against Gaza, against U.S. force. Well, the Democrats have been that way on and off since the 60s. Obama said we weren't very special. The reason why he said that is he didn't think we should be imposing our views on the world, including militarily. So, are they really that radical? You can get all of this at politicalvanguard.com, the link to this, and Town Hall, by the way. Or just search Tom Del Beccaro and Town Hall and you'll find it. Number four, the DSA is all about confiscating money from earners. They want to tax the rich. Remember Mondale in New York City standing outside the tower saying he doesn't even live here, we're going to tax him. They want a wealth tax. You know who else wants a wealth tax? The guy running for president, or the guy who ran for president. Bernie Sanders would have been the nominee, but they stole it from him and let Joe Biden be the nominee. He was for a wealth tax. He's for a wealth tax now. Elizabeth Warren's for a wealth tax. And of course, Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom's in first or second place, depending on the poll you read, to run for president. So is the DSA really radical? Or aren't they just the Democrat Party, who may be pretty radical? Number five, trans rights. Look at the DSA website. They're all for it. It was stated policy during the Biden administration. The Assistant Secretary of Health was a trans person. Okay? It was stated policy. It's still stated policy in California. When the Supreme Court decision came down, Gavin Newsom thumbed his nose at it, said, we're still going to do it. The point here is you look at those top five, those are all of their major issues, and they're all major issues for the Democrats over the last 4 years and longer. Let's keep going. I said there were 10. Let's keep going. 10. Community organization and protests. Go to their website. They want you to start a chapter. They want you to organize. And they want you to come out and protest. Well, the Democrats have been the party of protest. They were in the 60s, and they're there that way again. Think of the Obama administration. There were protests all over the place. Think of the university protests. Think of the marches on, fill in the blank. They use the same tactics. The Democrats do, and the DSA. 7, they want to get rid of the police. You saw that one candidate who's going to be in Congress from New York wants to get rid of the police. They've been all about defunding the police. Mondale ran saying, no, he's going to keep the police. But then what did he do? No, he's not doing that. He's reducing their budget. He's not allocating funds, on and on and on. Open border. They think it should be wide open. The DSA says everybody should come in. That was actual policy for the Democrats in 2021 to 2025 early. It still is for them. They don't like Trump's idea. They don't think anybody should be deported. Well, why wouldn't you deport someone? Because your whole point was getting them here. Open borders. DSA and the Democrats are pretty down close on those. Anti-Israel. Now, this is one where the DSA is probably more radical because of so many aspects of them, of their people are Muslims and radical ones at that. But they're not in support of Israel at all. They run out people like that. And you know what? Democrats do that too. Why do you think Kamala Harris didn't pick the governor from Pennsylvania? Because he's Jewish. They didn't think they could sell that. He was the most moderate Democrat in the field, and they didn't pick. Why? All right, number 9, anti-American views. There's a poll out there that says only 27% of Democrats are proud of being American. Well, if you're not proud of being American, what the hell are you? You're not in favor of America. You don't think it's a good thing. You're probably uneducated. You have no concept what life has been like in the rest of history or around the world. If you're not pro-American, go live in Cuba. Go live in the Soviet Union. Go have all your views in Gaza. But the reality is the DSA and the Democrats share that strain. The Republicans have been 90%, 92% favorable on America forever, decades. Democrats, no, they're down to 27%. And finally, we get to socialism. Socialism is a reflection of growing government power. Rarely in history does socialism come in overnight, although it does. In the Soviet Union, you see a revolution resulting in communism, a form of socialism. But in Western democracies, it happens over time. And that's what you have in the United States, cradle to grave. Someone can cross the border, have a baby in a hospital, American taxpayers pay for it. Now they become citizens, or they have been and still will be. They get, if the parents are on welfare, which so many of those coming here illegally are, which is very different from what happened in the 1800s, then the child gets it there. The child gets daycare, preschool, school, on and on and on. And you have these massive programs at the other end of the scale, Social Security and Medicare, very popular. They knew what they were doing. You make people dependent on government and they vote for more government. So in history, historians tend to have said that what socialism is when the government runs industry. But in the modern world, governments are so powerful with technology that they can regulate industry into doing what they want. Essentially the same thing. The Green New Deal. Regulating, passing laws saying that a hospital has to provide care, on and on, that insurance companies have to provide specific types of insurance, on and on and on. So we have a new regulatory socialism. And you know who's for it? The DSA. And you know who's for it? The Democrat Party. Now, the DSA is more radical. I'm sure my guest, Tony Katz, will have an opinion on that. The DSA is more radical, but they're both in the same place in the sense that they want government deciding outcomes. They don't believe in the American experiment, which is opportunity. They believe in government guaranteed outcomes, which have been a disaster in all of history. So I wrote this piece. We're doing this bit right now because the reality is you don't get the DSA in power anywhere or their candidates until you have a big government party before them. And they just take it a step farther. If you want, Google the platform of the Socialist Party of America in the early 1900s, and you'll see there it is. Now the Democrat Party basically pushed all of that, and the DSA wants to go the next step. But don't be fooled. The modern Democrat Party is far left. They only tolerate far left. And the DSA is in existence because of how left the modern Democrat Party has become. Well, that's my opening statement. We'll be right back with our decision maker interview with Tony Katz. Welcome back, everyone, to Politics in Perspective. Pleased to have an old friend. He's not really that old, but I've known him a long time. We used to hang out a bit in California, but he went on to saner, not bigger necessarily in geography, but saner and better things. Welcome nationally syndicated radio host. I don't see the cigar. I'm very disappointed.
Do you want me to go light one up right now? I will go. Give me a second. I'll go light one up.
No, we don't have you long enough. We need you as it is. So, Tony, you left California. You got a taste of it. If people look online, just put in Tony Katz, California, you'll get a lot of articles. You go ahead and rant a little bit if you want on California, but what I really want from your perspective is you've been in Indiana for a while now. How does Gavin Newsom play in the Midwest?
To the extent that he plays at all, I would say that it's a zero. So I spent 6 years in the San Fernando Valley, and I enjoyed my time. It really was terrific. California is a beautiful, beautiful place, and we saw that it was slowly but surely being destroyed, and that certainly got accelerated, has been accelerated. It seems like a never-ending story that we get to, and I think it's been highlighted well by Steve Hilton. I think it's been highlighted well by Spencer Pratt. I think you've done excellent work with that. People like Keira Davis and others telling that story. John Fleischman, a host of people have been telling this story, going back to articles from Joel Kotkin in City Journal. But when I moved to Indiana 12 years ago, I moved for a radio gig, right? That's where I got the gig. Then I came here. And you realize that not all places are the same. Not all things are equal. I gave up mountains and a beach, and what I got was a place where I can actually keep my money, a place that wasn't trying to actively hurt me and harm me, a place that wanted to see where its value was from within, not from without. Because one of the things that's most true about California and California politics, and it was noticeable then, it's noticeable now, their view of success, I believe, it's a bit Hollywood-esque in this way. It comes from without. How do people see them? Instead of how do people see themselves? And I think the Hoosier mentality, Midwest mentality has been much more about how people see themselves. And the greatest story I can tell to this is that when I moved here to the Indianapolis area, right? Indianapolis is the capital of Indiana. I thought maybe there would be a complex. They'd have a little Chicago complex, or maybe even a little Cincinnati complex, which is just an hour plus down the road to the southeast. And the answer was, oh gosh, heck no. They don't view themselves as any of those things. They're from Indianapolis. They're Hoosiers. You have to learn what a Hoosier is, and that takes time. But they love who they are and what they do and how they do it. They didn't value themselves based on how others saw them. They valued themselves based on how they were doing and what the future that they wanted. And that was probably the most stark difference and the best difference. And I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, I suppose using your analysis, there's far less plastic surgery in Indiana than in Hollywood.
Yeah, we just do it for different things here. I think that's really it. There, much less are we worried about what people see of us as much more as how we see ourselves.
Okay, so nevertheless, the where you are, Ohio, right next to you, has a big governor's race. The whole Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, all the way up. Give us. I know you're great on the cultural issues. You speak clearly about this. Where? How does the What do people think of the Democrat Party? What do you think of it? Where are they?
Well, understand, take a look at our state, right? Take a look at where we're connected to. When you're California, you're connected to Oregon, you're connected to Arizona, which is purple, and you're connected to Nevada, which is, questioning at all levels. When you're here, you're flanked by Illinois, which is radically left. You have Kentucky, which seems to elect conservatives from time to time, but also has Andy Beshear as its governor. To the north, we've got Michigan, and that's Gretchen Whitmer. And then you have, of course, Ohio, and whether or not Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be able to pull this out. This is a place that has had Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown and others. The story of the Democrats is to think that the Midwest is some level of enclave or safe haven from progressivism is untrue. In my Indiana, you have central Indiana, right, where I'm at, which has much more blue features. Then you have northern Indiana and southern Indiana, which have much more red features, which gives us a supermajority of Republicans in our General Assembly, but doesn't mean they act like a supermajority as the country saw regarding redistricting. So you are still involved in this fight. It's just the fight is different because instead of fighting a completely opposite, awkward, strange policy and philosophy that is the progressive left, you're fighting yourself in a way. You're supposed to be conservatives. Why aren't you acting like it? You're supposed to be Midwest nice and Midwest smart, and why aren't you acting like it? It becomes outrageously frustrating. The Ohio race does matter. Certainly in terms of electoral votes, it matters. They have a larger population than we do here, and I do have some levels of concern there. But a much larger concern for me is that you take what Michigan has to offer, you take what Illinois has to offer, you take what Kentucky has to offer, and I do get concerned that that madness can make its way here. We should want their businesses because Indiana is a top 10 business place and has a much better business climate. And then a place like Illinois, we should not take their crazy.
Yeah, I saw this week 7 more counties voted or set up to secede. That makes 33 Illinois counties
Yeah.
want to secede from Cook. I don't know if you know, both sides of my family in the early 1800s were in Cook County, and my mom used to talk about the Union guys would come to the door on election day and knock on the door, and her mother would open it, and she'd watch them, and the Union guys would say, "Don't worry, we know you're busy. We took care of your vote." So, to all those who say there's no voter fraud, right?
Some things never change, man.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so little bit broader.
Sure.
I have a piece out in Town Hall I featured in my opening here related to the DSA. When you look at their website, Green New Deal, tax the rich, defund the police, open borders. Are they not just the Democrats in maybe a more intense form, the whole Democrat Party?
Oh, no. They're communists, and the word democratic socialist is a lie. It's a fraud. It's a front. It's a beard. That's what it is. Of course it is. They're communists. They know they're communists. They're now speaking like the communists they are. Bernie Sanders is a communist, and Ocasio-Cortez is a communist, and you can go down the list. This is who they are. Our issue is that we see it as you know. I mean, the one thing that California taught me was that everybody who said, why doesn't the right come to us, those conservatives in Hollywood, to help craft a message? Because we're the people who know how to sell a story and tell a story and share stories. And they never did it. Meanwhile, the left was controlling culture and controlling academia. And those things have led to where you are now, where we still send our kids to college and they come back hating the parents who write the check and hating the country where they were allowed to get the education. We still think that unions should somehow have a say in our kids' education in elementary school or secondary school. All this has to end. This is where the fight has to be. And it has to happen today. And you have to be willing to fight for your kid's life, because if not, they're going to take it, and they are going to take it. They've already shown so. So the Democratic Socialists are a lie. They are communists. This is a fraudulent name. This is nonsense. This is, call it a Ponzi scheme. I call it a beard. Going with that vernacular, let somebody get mad at me like I give a damn. That's what they are. So once you know that they're communists, and once you know that the universities are training grounds for the communists, proving grounds for the communists, indoctrination grounds for the communists, once you know that your high schools, your local high school, public and private, have brought in these kinds of teachers and these kinds of attitudes to lay the groundwork, you have to pull your kids from these places. You have to throw the teachers unions out. You have to fight back at the school board meetings. And they're so angry about parents fighting back that they label those school board attendees what? Domestic terrorists. Doesn't matter what they call you. You have to fight back. It's the California conversation, Tom. It doesn't matter how they see you. It's a question of how you see yourself. Who's in charge of your kid? You or these fakakta commie losers? Once the question gets answered that it's you, everything else falls into place. If you're not willing to get on the wall and fight for your kids, they're going to take your kids because they've already shown you that they're willing to do it.
Yeah, Tony, I get asked all the time, what do we do to correct this leftward drift, yada, yada. And look, it starts with education. And if you don't recover education, you're not going to recover the country's soul. I mean, if your 10-year-old thinks that capitalism is bad their whole life, that's all they're taught.
Can I go back? Let's go back a little bit. It starts with education. Can I say no to that? And it's not that we about the importance of education. We both come from a little bit of the same school from back in those days. It starts with the willingness of parents to say, I don't care what the other parents on the block think of me. And I don't give a good holy damn if you want to play with my kid or not. We'll find other friends, but I'm not doing this, and I'm not treating my kid like this, and I'm not subjecting my kid to that. And all those parents out there who said, I'm not getting my kid vaccinated. I don't care if adults got vaccinated from COVID or not. Individual decisions for adults. But we already knew it wasn't affecting kids. Getting your kid vaccinated, and there are parents out there who are watching this right now who didn't get their kid vaccinated, and other parents are like, whoa, we can't play with you. Screw them. It's your kid. Until that happens, we start with the basic. We go back to 2012. And Melissa Harris Perry, do you remember her from then MSNBC? And she's the one who did the commercials that your kids should belong to all of us, right?
Yeah.
It was a big furor at the time. That wasn't something new. They were already well in the game, and they still believe that. No, your kids belong to you. And if you're not willing to scratch, claw, and fight for your kid and for your kid's safety and for your kid's future, they're going to take your kid. That's where it starts. It starts in the home saying, my kid is more important than that so-called friendship with that whoever it is. Screw them all. I'm protecting my children. That's where it begins.
Yeah, of course I agree with you in that regard. And this chasing of the better car and putting your kid in a daycare instead of spending the time with them at home, and making sure that have values and those kind of things. You're 100% right. Okay, so I'm not going to let you leave the Democrat Party completely here yet. Who do you see? I don't think Kamala Harris is going to actually enter Iowa. I was the first in the country
trying.
I know, but
trying.
The first in the country last year in 2020, I said she won't enter Iowa because she wasn't popular in California. Gavin Newsom's more popular than her in California, plus she blew $1 billion. So give us some handicapping on. They're going to start announcing in December. Who do you think?
Who the nominees are? Like who's going to run?
Who's serious? I mean, you're from Indiana. I'm pretty sure some guy from Indiana ran before. I'm having trouble remembering his name.
Yeah, his name was Mike, but not a Democrat at all. Mike Pence. But let's go through this list of Democrats of who it can be, and I'll start where I start, which is not with one name, but rather all the names. There is no leader of the Democrat Party. I think it was Senator John Fetterman talking about that the other day. Maybe it was Fetterman, maybe it was somebody else. It's a really astute observation, and I would commend everybody to just take a moment with that. We know who the leader of the Republican Party is, and if you took Donald Trump out of it, you would still name some people who are leaders of the Republican Party. When you go to the Democrat Party, there's no one. They are rudderless. And the only person who came close, which was Nancy Pelosi, is all out of the game now altogether. So once you realize that there is no structure of leadership, that means everybody is a nominee. Everybody is going to be crazy enough to think that they can run. Tom, Katie Porter is going to run for president of the United States. You want to bet money? Do you want to bet cash on this? Mass shootings
Okay,
are going to
two
be flying everywhere.
two things. Nancy Pelosi has a more important job now of driving her husband around, and you're right because the barrier to entry in the technological age is really low.
Well,
Pete Buttigieg is the perfect example.
Pete Buttigieg never should have been a serious nominee of any type. He still polls at 0% with black voters, no matter how hard he tries. It's like Mean Girls. Stop trying to make fetch happen, Gretchen. You're not going to make it happen. That's Pete Buttigieg. But when you think about the barrier to entry, that's a good, better way to say it. That's a better way to say it, Tom. The barrier to entry for all Democrats is zero because there's nobody they have to get approval from. It is only a question of can you fundraise, and they know that all they have to do is go radically progressive, say something bad about Israel, lie about Israel, say something bad about America, say all the bad things about Trump, talk about the evils of the Republican Party, claim Handmaid's Tale and whatever other nonsense is of the day, and they can at least get some level of traction. So
Yeah.
when we talk about any specific candidates, yes, I agree with you that Gavin Newsom is going to run and Pete Buttigieg is going to run. They're all going to run. They're all going to run because there is no one and no mechanism to stop them.
I'm with you. Okay, so the midterms. Is there an enthusiasm problem? Some polling shows Trump's rising here a bit again with the war calming down and prices. But what's the sense where you are about Republican enthusiasm for
I
turning
see
out?
Republicans keep the House and win. Keep the House and keep the Senate. That's right. I think they do both. And I don't think this is really about the war, although I think the president could do a much better job of explaining his position and stop talking about deal making. I'm very clear that I voted for Donald Trump 3 times. I can say anything I want to about the man. I've earned it. And I never lose sight of the fact that he works for me. I don't work for him. Stop talking about deals. Either end this regime like I believe he should or go home. Those are the options. But stop talking about deals because you make yourself look like Barack Obama talking about
Yeah.
Syria and red lines, and it's a terrible place for him to be. It's a mistake. But I don't think any of the movement you're seeing is about Trump. I think it's because everyone understands that the left is crazed. This is a deranged, communist, Nazi supporting party, like with Graham Plattner there in Maine. This is who they are. And every day it gets crazier and crazier. And nobody wants to be around it. They don't think women are women. They don't think you should have free speech rights. They think if somebody just happens to be passing through town and has a baby, they should indeed be a citizen. And how dare you question that? They're allowed to be a citizen. And in the same breath, we shouldn't have borders. People get exhausted by this. And I do think that's what's playing and that's what's showing. I think that's why Hakeem Jeffries is so fractured as a leader. You see the rise of these communists showing further that he has no level of power whatsoever, as we talk about no leadership taking place. I think that's what's moving people more than anything. Now, low gas prices is going to help. Ending this nonsense either by going on the full-on attack to take out the entirety of the IRGC or stopping, which is not the thing that I recommend, could absolutely help in this regard. And there are a couple other things that could happen, like the lowering of inflation, which isn't down yet. And that would get us into a tariff conversation where we may disagree. But it's much more about what the left is doing than what the right is doing. If the political right would just further engage on these things and amplify these things. The political left engaged the shutdown of America. They said no money for funding of border security. They said no money for keeping fentanyl out of the country, no money for the Coast Guard, no money for the Secret Service. They did this for 2 months, and the political right never ran a single campaign to hang this around their neck for forever. That's pretty nutty. If Republicans
stop you there because we only got you a couple of minutes left.
No.
What do you want to see these last couple of months going into the election? You want a mini platform? There's going to be this convention. What do you want to see in the remaining months?
Oh, I want to see a platform that talks about economic security. I want to see a platform that talks about what real affordability is, which is capitalism and not these liars who think they can give you everything for free. I want the full exposing of what it is that these communists do and how they do it. I want to call Bernie Sanders a communist, and I want to see us laugh in their face. And then, if we could, I would like to see us pick the next thing we should be serious about, which is the SAVE Act. And could we please pass some voter ID laws?
Yeah, I don't think history is going to look well in the Senate for fumbling this. What your thought? We got a minute left. What do you think?
Oh, I'm with you. I don't know what we're doing, what we're waiting on. And if it's a difficult for people in rural states like Maine and Alaska, I'm sorry it's difficult. But we need to make sure that everybody who is a citizen is voting and other people aren't. And sometimes we got to go through the work. I don't know what else I'm supposed to say on the subject.
Okay. Uh, One last thing.
Yeah.
Rubio or Vance, or are you still waiting?
Oh no, I'm a Rubio guy.
All
Uh,
right. I love it.
JD Vance is smart and bright and has real capabilities, but his foreign policy presentation is not my foreign policy presentation. Whether we're talking about how he handled himself in the Oval with Ukraine and Zelensky
Thank you.
or with Iran now, and we could debate that on another time.
Well, I say argument is not leadership. Arguing is not the same as leadership, and we need more of a bright line in and moral clarity in foreign policy, and that's why I'm all about Rubio. Tell people where they can find you.
You find everything at TonyKatz.com. The live show, the syndicated show, you can find on YouTube, noon Eastern, every Monday through Friday, and on X at Tony Katz, and sometimes sleeping in Tom's pool house.
Tony Katz. Folks, if you haven't heard him before, now you have no excuse not to listen to him tomorrow. Tony, appreciate you coming on.
Take care, my friend.
Welcome back to Politics in Perspective. I hope you enjoyed Tony Katz. We've been friends for a long time. He's very dynamic. TonyKatz.com, KATZ.com. Start to follow him. Buy his stuff, but not until you buy my stuff, like the Lessons of the American Civilization, and sign up for Substack. I want to bring in my producer because she has some views also on this issue of socialism and the parties, and she comes at it, remember, from a different angle. She comes at it having lived in Iran, subjugated by centralized governments, and a supreme leader. By the way, Annie, come on in. I hate the term supreme leader because it makes it sound like he's anything else but a murderous dictator. Why don't you start there and then talk about a little bit about socialism?
I agree, and that's by design. There's a reason they call him the supreme leader. Which right there should tell you how he feels about himself, right? He's superior to everybody else, which comes directly from Sharia, actually. That title is given to him through Sharia. And I don't think we have ever had a supreme leader who was not a cold-blood murderer. When I think about it, from 7th century to today, all of the supreme leaders of Shia sect have all been just killers, but they're respected within their own, central government, as you called it. By the way, I want to say something. I am not an expert on socialism or communism. The reason I sound like an expert is because Islam and communism are exact same playbook. I sometimes even feel like communism was taken from Muhammad. Like they studied Muhammad and they came up with their own communism, excluding
Okay,
the religion.
so expand on that a little bit because it is true. I tell people, people want to say about Iran's leaders that they're very unique, but that's not true. Dictators in history or wannabe dictators create external boogeymen in order to steal all your rights. So Hitler created this problem with the Jews and the capitalists and others. Mussolini hated the communists because he hated them to grab power. Mao talked about this. So these Iranian dictators and all levels of it, they need the United States to subjugate your people. What say you?
Absolutely, 100%. United States of America and Israel are the boogeyman. Yes. And again, even when you mention Hitler, where did Hitler get the idea? From Islam. When Muhammad conquered Medina and made the Jews the problem. That's how he got away with beheading 800 Jews in one night, with no backlash from the remaining tribes of Jewish people. They didn't even push back because he made them the boogeyman. His explanation was that they are the reason we're fighting. They're not willing to work with me. And then Hitler just took that, expanded into modern day, where Jews are the problem again. And then when Khomeini, the original supreme leader in 1979, when he arrived in Iran from his exile in France, when he arrived, the very first speech he gave the same day was, we're gonna take down the great Satan, America, and wipe Israel off the map. From that day until today, you're right. And that's why they're failing to control Iranian people, because Iranian people are not buying it. They're looking at all the benefits. There are Iranian people inside Iran who do repeatedly say, why would I think America is a problem when American people are living such a good life? Especially
stop right there. Benjamin Franklin said those who would give up their freedom for security will get neither. And that's what Hitler and Iran says. Iran says America is bad, these dictators, and they're going to do, they are our enemy, on, and we have to be on and on about what they would do. And so what they say is, you have to do everything else we want. Otherwise, you're going to be taken over by the United States. When Diocletian, around 295 to I think 306, the Roman emperor, socialized the economy, took over industry, saying essentially the barbarians are at the gate, which is where this phrase comes from. If you don't give me your freedom, they will kill you. Is that not what's going on in Iran as well?
It is exactly what's going on, and unfortunately they have what I would say a fake perfect example for Iranians, which again, Iranians aren't buying it anymore, but originally it was the example of Iraq and Afghanistan. Look what America did to them, they're going to come do the same to you. But where did that fail was when Iranians realized the problem in Iraq and Afghanistan wasn't America or American soldiers, it was the citizens of the country refusing the freedoms, refusing the liberties, refusing the change of culture. So again, I wanted to separate the Iranian people, because people can see today they're willing to die. There are so many people who say, I prefer to die under an American bomb than the hands of the regime. We're unfortunately at that point. But yes, the playbook is, look what they did to Afghans. Look what they did to Iraqis. They want to come and take your country, and then they want to leave you with nothing until you starve. And that plagues not just there. Look at Syria today. Syrian people have gone home. There is no more civil war. They have actually put their trust in al-Sharaa. Their life is no better. Christians are still being killed every day. Jews are being killed every day. But the narrative is, if you don't let me control you, then Iran regime is going to come take you. The boogeyman for Syria is the mullahs.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of which, let's bring up a graphic here. There was, over the weekend, this mass funeral procession. I put on the top of this, real or staged. You live there. Is that forced support there, or is there that many that really support the regime?
Actually, this might come as a surprise. No one in that crowd was forced to be there at all. However, what you don't know is over 70% of that crowd were not Iranians at all.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yes. Huge number were the Shia Iraqis who support the Iraqi Shia militia group. They showed up. We had a very big crowd from Afghanistan, supporters of Taliban, who sent their people. Yes, in return, they received certain prizes to show up, but they did show up from outside of Iran, mainly from Afghanistan and Iraq, who came to support or show their grief for Khamenei. Mind you, his body isn't even being buried in Iran. It is being buried in Iraq. Again.
Wow. Why is that?
Well, number one reason.
Safety for him?
No, he's not Iranian. Just like Khomeini wasn't Iranian. Khomeini was Indian. Khamenei was an Arab from Iraq. So they're taking him home. The second reason, yes, they don't want to have, they think Iranian people are going to actually dig his grave and bring him back up and do things they shouldn't be. So yes, they're protecting the body as well. But number one is sending him home, Iraq.
Wow. All right. Next graphic. No, I didn't know Iran had the capacity to make a banner that big, but so based on your prior statement, this is pretty darn real among those kind of people, yes?
Absolutely. Actually, that banner is real. There were other banners, and then there was a banner, a digital banner, standing up that people who attended the funeral were throwing stone at in the act of actually, mocking execution for Trump. This is very real. Islamic Republic of Iran, of course, put a bounty on Trump and Bibi last year. However, IRGC just launched their newest unit called Mukhtar Unit, which are literally assigned for one task and one task only, and that is to assassinate the 12-man name of IRGC's newest hit list. Top of the list, Bibi. Second on the list, Trump. And the list goes on with some of our officials and some of the Israeli officials. This time, they have actually activated their assassination unit as of 3 days ago.
So tell us more about that. Where is this? What is the Iran regime? I take it there's less of them, but apparently just as intense or more radical.
I love what you just said at the end. Actually, there's definitely less of them. However, unfortunately, what's left of them are the absolute devout ones. They are out for blood. They don't do negotiations, and I should be specific. We're talking about IRGC, not the people who show up in suits and shake hands in Qatar and Doha. No, I'm talking IRGC, which is still running the country. The power has not been transferred from IRGC to the regime yet. As leaders of the country right now, they're out for blood. They are very much the most devout group, and the unit they just activated comes from their proxy that has a blood trail across the globe for taking out dissidents, enemies as they call it. So they don't even care. They have made it very clear to the negotiation team that you can negotiate as much as you want, but we're going to continue this war. But now they're doing a shadow war through their units.
So what should Israel do?
Israel should either politely convince President Trump to unleash him again, or they should just go ahead and finish the job and deal with the fallout with America later.
Well, yeah, if what, I'm not doubting what you're saying, but if this unit exists, there's no compromise, which begs the question, taking on this tiger, there was never any compromise. You had to get it to the point, I believe, months ago, you said there's about 60,000 IRCG, or whatever the number was, and you needed that down to 10 or 15 of the lowest level, least committed, in order to really make a change. Is that not where we still are?
That's exactly where we are. And to give you more detail of numbers, Quds forces, which is the force that created the Mukhtar unit, they stand at only 10 to 12,000 soldiers. That's all. Taking them out shouldn't be a big deal. However, unfortunately, we can actually, tomorrow on Monday, my Substack coming out is specifically introducing this unit, giving numbers, names, information, and all of that of who they are, what their track is. But 10 to 12,000 members of IRGC under Quds forces should not be that hard for Israel or US to take out. We take him out. And right now we have perfect reason to do it. President Trump himself said it. Exactly. He said it on his latest speech last week that he knows that there's a new hit list and he's on the list. That's enough to take out this unit.
Okay, so obviously they should know all of this too. Mm-hmm. You get rid of those 10 to 12,000, and then what's left?
There is no assassination unit left. That's the good news. So we tip the balance of power. IRGC still has soldiers, but none of them are trained as assassins or proxies. They're just soldiers now. You just got foot soldiers. Yes, there's a handful of 25 of the leaders that still need to be taken out, but the remaining of them are just soldiers. They know how to shoot guns, they know how to blow themselves up, they know how to make bombs, but they don't know how to lead the mission, nor none of them have the religious, quote-unquote, religious authority to even issue a call to action. So you decapitate them.
Okay, if you recall, months ago I said that, or whenever the break started on this, that this was related to domestic politics. We also know that Trump says he wanted the continue the reordering of the global supply of oil, which is making Iran weaker by the day. But once the midterms were done, I said Trump would go back in heavily. What's your comment on that, or changes or additions to that?
I would agree with I actually shared your original statement on that, but I do believe, regardless of midterm, today is a much better window of opportunity to do this because they've been activated. They're out in the open. This unit is normally never out in the open. Right now, they're out in the open.
But it's not out. But it's not. Where are they out in the open? They're not in the out. They're not sitting in Tehran.
Oh no, not at all. None of them are in Tehran. That's the thing. They're out in the open. You can most of them. You can find them, especially their leaders. You can find them in Gaza border. You can find them in Syria. You can find them in Iraq. If you want to head to Europe, UK and France are their bases. Now, if you want to come to our area, let's head over to Canada. As of right now, Canadian government has admitted that they have leaders of both forces of IRGC in Canada with green cards that they can't legally get rid of. So this is where they are. Now they're out in the open. President Trump is set to be the master of making deals, right? Let's make deals with Canada, Mexico, France, Italy, and England. Start picking them up.
All right. We've run out of time, but that's a good place as any to stop. Thanks so much for coming on and filling us in on the latest. That's Politics in Perspective this week. Next week, we're going to have a special interview with Steve Hilton on his campaign and what lies ahead in California and why it matters. Please pick up my books, Substack, find me at Town Hall, foxnews.com, and my most recent 2 op-eds and everything at tomdell.com. And please share this. I think this was a great show today on all counts, and I hope you enjoyed it too. I'm Tom Del Beccaro. We'll see you next week.